Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. This is for Woman Styling. Today on the channel I'm going to be showing us how to draft a princess that bustier. Okay, and before that, these are the things that I'm going to need. Of course, you're going to need your fabric between 2 to 4 yards. So here I have 4 yards of fabric because I'm going to be making a dress. Okay, so I have my fabric here. I'm going to make use of this Ankara fabric. I have my lining, my fusible interface, my wording. Of course, I'm going to need it for the bust area. Then I also have my hemming gum. This is really important. My tape rule, scissors, pattern paper, and of course my measurements. This video is going to be 2 parts. I'm going to make the top here, which is the princess that bustier, and at the same time I'm going to be making a mermaid skirt. So you want to do well and turn on your notification bell so that you know whenever I drop the skirt video. Okay, so now the first thing we are going to do is to start with the pattern drafting. Then we are going to transfer our pattern to the fabric before we start joining our piece together. So please, if this looks like something you are interested in, kindly watch this video to the very end. Thank you. Now I have my pattern paper already and I have my body measurements. So what I'm going to do from this top line, I'm going to take all my vertical measurements, which includes the chest line, the bust point line, and the waistline, the under bust as well. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to mark the half length, okay, because as I've said before, this is going to be a dress. Okay, the upper part is a bustier, while the lower part is a mermaid dress. Okay, so my half length I already measure, and the next thing I want to do now is to take all other vertical measurements. So from this top part, which is going to be my shoulder line, I'm going to mark my bust point, my under bust point, then of course the half length. So I'm going to mark it forward a little bit, then I'm going to connect the lines. So after this, now the next thing I want to do is to go to the top line here and take my shoulder measurements divided by 2. So whatever value you have, you're going to divide into 2 equal half. Okay, and you're going to mark it from this center line forward like so. So from there you go down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, then you connect back just like you see me doing. Okay, so the next thing you want to do now is to plot the armhole line and the armhole curve. So you can either use your shoulder measurement divided by 2, or you just divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5. so whatever value you get, you mark from the shoulder slope, not the shoulder line. Okay, then you're going to connect. So you come to this point and mark again, then you connect with a straight line just like you see me doing. So from the shoulder slope again, you're going to connect down to the new line, and that new line is going to be our chest line. Okay, so the next thing you want to do now is to create the armhole curve. To do that, you can first measure your bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. Okay, you impute the value because we are going to need that point when we want to connect our armhole curve. So on this line now, you are going to divide whatever you have into 2 equal half. You go in on the center by 0.5, then you're going to connect like so. All right, so this is where we need our bust measurement. As you can see, you're going to connect it back to this point. So after this, now we can now decide on our dart line and create our under bust, over bust, and our armhole princess that. Okay, so you come here from your center front, you divide your bust span, that is your nipple to nipple, into 2 equal half. Whatever value you have, you mark this way, then you connect with the straight line. After this, the next thing you want to do is to do the under bust tightening, but before that I would like to label my lines. So you go ahead and do the same thing. So after this, now you come to this under bust line. So the line coming towards the center front, you mark ½ inch. Then you, on the other side, you are going to take 1.5 inch. This measurement actually varies. It depends on the bust circumference of the person you are working with. The higher the bust, the higher the figure you're going to make use of. All right, so after that, now you measure 1 inch down from the bust point line like so. Then you're going to connect back to the under bust with a curve just like you see me doing. Okay, just like the shape we have on our bust, we need to create that effect. Okay, we need to create that effect, so that's why we're having a curve. All right, so on this armhole now, we're going to create another curve because we are making an armhole dart. All right, so you measure your armhole curve and divide whatever value into 2 equal half. You mark the midpoint like so, then you connect back to the bust point. But before that, from the bust point line, you go up by half an inch, then you connect again. All right, so after this, now you're going to connect back to that half an inch with a curve, just like you see me do it. So when you are doing this, you want to be careful because you need to avoid sharp points. So even if you have any, you try to blend it, just like you see me doing. Okay, so now we need to create a dart beside this line as well. All right, so you can use 0.5 or 0.75 or even 1 inch on both sides of this line. So whatever value you want to use to take your dart, you are going to divide it to 2 equal half and you mark it on both sides of this line. All right, then you connect back to the bust point line like so. All right, you connect the lower and the upper part. So after which you have done this, you will now extend or replace this area, because by the time you stitch it down, it might not align or one side will be longer than the other. So to avoid that, you're going to go out by 1 inch and connect, just like you see me doing. So this 1 inch is whatever that you take on the armhole. All right, so you are going to mark that same value on your chest line like so. Then you are going to reconnect to have a new armhole line. All right, so with this, by the time you join your piece of fabric together, one side will not be longer than the other. All right, so the next thing we want to do now is to plot our neckline. So as for the neckline, you can do anyhow you like. All right, you can decide to make use of a round neckline, a symmetric neckline, V neckline, any kind of neckline of your choice. So but for this one, I'm going to be marking 3.5 by 3.5, and at the same time you can also mark 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'm just going to mark the two so that we can see the difference between the two. So I'm going to connect with a curve ruler to give me a round neckline. All right, so that I'm done with that. So the next thing we want to do now is to take the body circumference measurement. So on the chest line, we already have our bust circumference. I'm just going to add my seam allowance of 2 inches. Okay, yours can be up to that and it might not be up to that. So on the waistline, you're going to divide your waist circumference into 4 and you mark like so. You measure whatever you have here on the dart, you replace it, then you're going to add your seam allowance. All right, so then you connect the points together. All right, so after that, now the next thing you want to do now, I'm going to mark out the seam allowance. This will guide me and it will make me understand that I already have seam allowance on this pattern. So you can go ahead and do the same thing. Remember, this tutorial is beginners friendly. This is just like a step-by-step and a process to help us avoid trouble on our pattern paper by the time we want to transfer to the fabric. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out this pattern. All right, so to cut out this pattern, just watch closely the way I'm cutting it. So if you watch this video to this point and you find it helpful or you find it interesting, please kindly give it a thumbs up. Drop your comments in the comment section. If you have a video request, if there's anything you want to say about this video, you can actually drop it in the comment section. And also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and share so that we can reach more people. All right, so that'll be all for the cutting. Okay, so you can go ahead and cut the neckline and you can also decide not to cut it yet, but make sure you not mark the bust point. And for this side, we're going to cut 2, and on this other side, this center front, I'm going to cut on fold. So because I fold my paper into 2, that's why I have 2 pieces. All right, so the next thing we want to do now is to mark this neckline. Decide on which of the 2 you want to work with. So I decided to go for 3.5 by 3.5, and that is what I'm going to cut out. All right, so my client does not want it too wide, all right, and she does not want it too high at the same time. Okay, so that'll be all for the cutting of this pattern. Okay, so now we are going to move to the back bodice. Okay, and as for the back bodice, you are going to draft your basic bodice as well. So now for the back, the first thing you want to do is to mark zipper allowance of 2 inches. Yours might be 1.5 or 1 inch depending on what you work with. Okay, and then you needed just the shoulder line, the chest line and the waistline, because there's no bust at the back, so we do not need our bust point and under bust. After that, you're going to mark your bust span divided by 2 and you plot your waist darts. So on this waistline, I'm going to mark 0.5 on both sides, and I'm going to connect to the chest line, just like you see me doing. So after that, now the next thing we want to do is to come to this zipper allowance area. We want to avoid zip bulge. That is, we want to do the back tightening. All right, so you mark 0.5 from the center back. Even if you do not have a zipper allowance, you can still do it. Okay, so after that, now I'm going to mark my neckline 3.5 by 1 inch. Okay, so as for the back, you can make it deeper, lower, just depends on how exactly you want it. So we'll come back to this 0.5 and connect back to the top like so. So this will help us avoid zip bulge. Okay, that is our zip folding at the back. All right, so after that, now we are going to plot our armhole. The first thing you want to do again is to measure your bust circumference divided by 4, and then you mark your waist circumference divided by 4. You replace your waist dart, do not forget. Then you had your seam allowance as well. So then I'm just going to connect the points like so, and I'm still going to be marking out or indicating my seam allowance. But before that, I want to create the armhole for the back. And as for the back, the armhole is not always as deep as that of the front, just like you see me doing. So after that, I'm going to mark out my seam allowance. I'm going to write it out that I already have a seam allowance on this pattern. So please kindly go ahead and do the same thing if you have enough paper to do that. So after this, now we are done with the back bodice, except if you want to have a princess seam at the back as well. Okay, so if you want to have a princess seam at the back, what you are going to do is to connect from the armhole to the dart on the chest line. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this out now. I'll start by cutting off the 0.5 we deducted earlier. Then I'm going to be cutting the seam allowance as well. So after cutting out your pattern, now before you cut out the neckline, you're going to fold in the zip allowance, because we are assuming we are folding the allowance on the fabric already. So you cut it out like this so that you can have even measurement on the neckline. Then you cut out the shoulder and of course the armhole. All right, so that'll be all for the pattern drafting. So the next thing I'm going to do after this, after labeling correctly, you're going to transfer your pattern to the fabric and at the same time to the lining. So if you want to have a princess seam, this is how you're going to do it. But for this one, I just want to have a normal waist dart at the back. So now I'm going to transfer this to the fabric. I'm going to cut 2 for the back. I'm going to cut 2 for this side front, and then the center front is definitely going to be on fold. So guys, I already cut it out, and as you can see, I already had my seam allowance. So please go ahead and add your accurate seam allowance. So cut out your lining exactly the way you have your fabric. The sewing tutorial of this top is going to be dropping after which I drop this one, and at the same time the mermaid skirt also, I'm going to drop that one too. So please turn on your notification bell, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss when I drop that video, and please give this video a thumbs up, drop your comments in the comment section. Till we meet next time, bye bye and take care of yourself.